Hey Bookaholics, welcome to another video. So today I'm talking about Pride and Prejudice adaptations. So I absolutely love Pride and Prejudice. It is my absolute favorite classic. I love it so very much. I never read it until I got into university, but after I did, it's so good. I love it. So I'm just going to talk about Pride and Prejudice first before I talk about the adaptations. So Pride and Prejudice is in like the 1700s, 1800s time era. And it pretty much just follows Elizabeth Bennet. She is a very stubborn girl who isn't very interested in marriage, even though her mother is obsessed with it. Her mother is crazy, like just wants to marry off all her girls, no matter what their ages are. If they have a man who is willing to marry them, she is happy. But yeah, pretty much just follows Elizabeth Bennet as her sister, Jane, kind of starts to fall in love with this rich guy who comes into town, and his friend, Mr. Darcy, is with him, and they kind of have a rivalry. She overhears something that Mr. Darcy says about her, and she is not impressed, and she just ends up just hating him. So it kind of follows that as they keep on running into each other, and it is adorable, and it's so cute, and it's a very feminist book. A lot of people just absolutely love this classic, which I do as well, and so many adaptations has come out of it, whether it's adapting the book into a movie or TV series, or taking the plot line and making it their own, or whatever they want to do with it. So I want to talk about some of the adaptations that came out of it, because in one of my university classes, it was pretty much just us talking about Pride and Prejudice and all their adaptations. And I absolutely loved the class. I loved all the stuff we talked about it, and we talked about all these adaptations. And some of them I did not like, and some of them I absolutely loved. So I want to talk about some of those. So let's just get right into talking about all the adaptations. So the first one I want to talk about is the Pride and Prejudice miniseries with Colin Firth. So this one is the most popular adaptation. We talked about this one a lot. We didn't actually watch the miniseries in the class because, well, one, it's a miniseries, so it's quite long, but also it is just very iconic that we couldn't go through this class without talking about it. This one is pretty much just like an adaptation of the book itself, and they did very, very well with it. Like, they followed the book very, very well, and one of the iconic moments in the miniseries that we talked about, it's when Elizabeth goes to Pemberley. She is with her aunt and uncle, and they go to Pemberley. She's fine with it because she thinks Mr. Darcy's not there. But when they get there, they find Mr. Darcy when he dives into the pond that's at his estate, and he climbs out with just a wet white t-shirt, and it's quite an iconic moment. It's not in the movie, it's not in the book. Like, he just comes to Pemberley. He doesn't make like this big dramatic scene where he comes out of the lake. No, the miniseries came up with that on their own, but it is a very, very iconic moment. Like, I can't remember where in Europe, but they have Colin Firth in a lake in that iconic moment, and it's just funny because so many people believe that was in the book, and they talk about that as they're trying to discuss the book, and it's not in there. But it's quite funny that one of the things that people always relate to Pride and Prejudice is that scene. But the miniseries is great. Colin Firth is the Mr. Darcy, even though Colin Firth hates Mr. Darcy. He absolutely just loathes that character, but he's Mr. Darcy. That is my favorite adaptation because it's long, so you can enjoy Pride and Prejudice for a longer period of time, but also it's amazing. So yeah, my next favorite one. It's hard to just decide which one I like the best because there's so many good ones. I don't know, but my number one favorite written work of Pride and Prejudice adaptation would have to be Longbourn by Joe Baker. So this one, it's not like a retelling, it's literally kind of following the same story but in a servant's perspective. So all the servants in Longbourn, which is the place that Elizabeth grew up, it kind of just follows them. And they kind of like see what's going on in the Bennet's storyline, but they have their own little storyline in here as well. And I just absolutely adored it because, well, one, they don't like sugarcoat anything. Like, they talk about how they have to clean the girls' period moments. They don't sugarcoat the nastiness of this time with hygiene and stuff like that. But I just really, really adore this. They're like the fly on the wall for the Bennet, and we were able to see it in a different kind of perspective and see how the servants would have been in the Austen time. And I just really, really love this. This is the first one we read in the class. It still remained like my #1 favorite written work of an adaptation. I love the romantic stuff that comes in this one as well because it's so different from Pride and Prejudice, because in Pride and Prejudice it follows like the more, not even elite, because the Bennets aren't really all that big of a family, like they're not all that rich, but again, they can have an estate and they can have servants, so they're still in that higher elite status, but the servants have a different way of life that I really, really enjoyed reading about, and I just really love this one. So this is my absolute favorite written adaptation that's not exactly an adaptation, but it's just a different perspective of Pride and Prejudice, and I just absolutely loved it. If you just absolutely love Pride and Prejudice and you want to read more stuff, I would recommend this one. Definitely. My next favorite, which is a little bit different, like it's a very different kind of medium, it would be the Lizzie Bennet Diaries. Oh my god, I love this one so very much. So this is a YouTube series that is pretty much just looking at Elizabeth Bennet's story in the 21st century, and like all of her life is shown on these little YouTube videos of her just vlogging, and it is just so good. Like, it follows pretty much the same thing that Pride and Prejudice does, but in the 21st century. Like, if you want to watch something that is kind of like Pride and Prejudice but like a different spin on it, this one is your go-to place to go find it because it is just amazing. Like, it was so very, very well done. Like, the people who made it, it's just amazing. I loved it so much. And like, you know kind of the gist of what's going to happen, but at the same time, it's delivered in a different kind of way than in the book because, yes, it's 21st century. I just love it. I watch it every once in a while because I just love it so much, and it's so neat to finally like meet the person who is playing one of your favorite characters. Like, I loved Lizzie Bennet. Like, she is so very funny. I loved her in this series, but I also loved like Jane. I loved the little sister's name. What is her name? She has her own little like character too that you don't get to see much in Pride and Prejudice, like the book, but in here it's really developed and you get to follow her, and you feel so much more sympathy towards her than in the book. So I'm so happy with that because they adapt these characters so well, and it's just amazing. So if you want to watch something that is like Pride and Prejudice but not, and just like perfect in the 21st century kind of aspect, Lizzie Bennet Diaries. Go watch it now because it's on YouTube and you can watch it for free. So, you know, go do it because it's worth it. There wasn't too many like book adaptations that I absolutely love besides Longbourn, but the next one I would have to go with would be Austen Land by Shannon Hale. So this one is pretty much about this girl who's obsessed with Jane Austen, and she goes to this, not really a how do you describe it? It's like this kind of resort where you get to live like people in the 1700s, 1800s, and you wear these dresses and it's just, I don't even know how to describe it, but you pretty much just pretend in this resort that you're in Austen's Land. And it's cute. It's a cute novel, and it was actually adapted into a movie as well, and the movie is hilarious. This one's a very cute novel that is not exactly an adaptation, but it's kind of just takes the really big hype of Pride and Prejudice and Jane Austen and creates this kind of resort and how affected people are still in the 21st century by Jane Austen's written works. It's just crazy how much Jane Austen is still affecting our world after 300 years or more. Is it 400 now? I don't know. One of the things that shows this is Austen Land, where people literally just want to live in her world and they go to a resort to do it. So this one is very cute. If you just want to read something fun and kind of amusing and also connected to Pride and Prejudice and Jane Austen, I'd recommend this one. So the next one that's kind of like a movie miniseries kind of thing that I absolutely loved is Lost in Austen. Now this one is pretty much just every person's dream who loves Pride and Prejudice just brought to life. So this one pretty much just follows like a 21st century girl who obsessed with Pride and Prejudice finds a way into Pride and Prejudice. It kind of starts with Elizabeth Bennet kind of finding this way to get into the 21st century, and the two people kind of just switch spots. So Elizabeth Bennet is in the 21st century, and the girl who pretty much represents all Pride and Prejudice fanatics get into Pride and Prejudice. She meets all her favorite characters. She meets her love interest, Mr. Darcy, and it just pretty much just follows her as she kind of wants to get back to her own world, but at the same time is just like, maybe not. So it's just kind of guilty pleasure, just watching someone who's like us being able to get into the Pride and Prejudice world, and I don't want to spoil it, but yeah, it pretty much just follows as she makes her way into the Austen world. I haven't watched it for a couple years, but I would love to watch it again because it was so good, and I highly recommend this one too if you just want to watch something funny that's still Pride and Prejudice but like you get to vicariously live through this 21st century girl into the Pride and Prejudice world. This one is definitely for you if that is what you're looking for. My next favorite book one would probably have to be Mr. Darcy's Diary by Amanda Grange. So this one pretty much just follows Darcy's perspective of the Pride and Prejudice book. So instead of just following Elizabeth Bennet, it follows Mr. Darcy and through his diaries, I think, right? Yeah, it just follows it through his diaries. It's quite cute. Like, you gotta kind of see his perspective of what was happening in Pride and Prejudice. I really, really enjoyed it. It wasn't my favorite, but I will read this one again because it was nice to just be in Mr. Darcy's head. And if you kind of just want to see Darcy's kind of take of the Pride and Prejudice, I would recommend this one. I'm not too sure if there's many other ones. This probably is, but I haven't read them, so I can't really recommend them, but this one I can. Okay, so my next favorite one that's like a film kind of thing would have to be Pride and Prejudice, the movie, in 2005. This one was one of the first ones I ever watched. Like, this was before I read Pride and Prejudice. I watched Pride and Prejudice, and I really enjoyed it. Like, I absolutely loved it. I wasn't too sure, but it was so good. I really enjoyed it. Keira Knightley, and I can't remember who the actor for Miss Darcy is, but Keira Knightley did a very, very well job in playing Elizabeth Bennet, and I really, really enjoyed it. It really made me want to read the book, which I did. It followed the book really well, and there was a few things that were taken out and some things that were like kind of made differently, but it was also pretty well done. One of my favorites, not quite my favorite, but it is one of my favorites that I'll watch for an adaptation. Next one that I recommend would be Pride and Prejudice. Now this one is very, very cute. So this one adapts Pride and Prejudice, and makes it into a Bollywood film. So it follows the Pride and Prejudice kind of plot line in a kind of 21st century Indian family, as the Mr. Darcy character, who's American, comes to, I think they live in Mumbai, or I'm not too sure where they live, but he comes to India and kind of meets this Bennet family and kind of like not all that familiar with the culture, but he's trying to bring a hotel that will bring tourism into their hometown, and kind of follows that same kind of plot line where the Elizabeth character and Mr. Darcy's character do not get along because of the culture differences between America and India, and it's quite fun and it gives you kind of some thoughts, and I really enjoyed talking about this in our class, and it was just so good because you know Bollywood films, they have dancing and singing and all that stuff was in this Pride and Prejudice movie, and I just loved it. It was very, very good, and I watch it every once in a while because it's just so cute, and it's just very, very well done, and I just loved it so much. So yeah. Oh dear, almost fell over. Okay, so yeah, that's pretty much all I want to talk about. Those are all the adaptations that I really, really enjoyed. Hoping the people who just absolutely love Pride and Prejudice are able to enjoy this, because they're such great adaptations that I absolutely just adore, and I'm hoping if you guys go check this out, you will too, because Pride and Prejudice will never die. I swear, it will never die. People will still love it, and people will be still making adaptations, and I can't wait to watch them. So that is it for my video. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. Comment down below all your favorite Pride and Prejudice adaptations. If there's some I haven't talked about, please let me know, because I would love to have more adaptations to watch. Subscribe if you haven't yet. Check out my other social media accounts on my Facebook, Twitter, and Goodreads. I make a video every Thursday, and I'll see you guys next video. Bye!